Free yourself.
Everyone, my name is Jeff. I'm the first counselor of Setting Order Ministries. This is United Order Part 4. In the last video, I left off on Journals of Discourses, Volume 19, page 180. We or some of us at times apt to think that this state of feeling is necessary to constitute us good Democrats. In other words, unless we have this kind of feeling of doing as we damn please. To me, this is worse than folly. It is ignorance of the true spirit of manhood. A saint will say, I have no will of my own except to do the will of my Heavenly Father who has created me. True, He has given me an agency and this will, but He has given it to me to see what I will do with it, how I will use it. And I have been instructed from heaven sufficiently to know and understand that it is for my best interest to allow this will to be subservient to the will of my Father. It is best for me to live and to seek His face in favor that I may know and learn what His will is concerning me, and that I may be ready to do it, holding my will in subject to His. So, God knows how we can be happy. He knows what makes us happy, and so if we just do His will instead of our will, we'll be a lot more happier. Okay, now we're going to move on to this is Journals of Discourses, Volume 16, so we're jumping back a book, a few books, and this is Volume 16, page 4. The Lord's judge or bishop in Zion purchased land from the United States and then laid off to each man his stewardship according to the number of his family. So in Zion, they purchased land from the United States, and each person was giving a stewardship. This is how the United Order all started. Brigham Young and Joseph Smith and people bought land and had a United Order. Those who were merchants received the tools necessary to work with. Those who were called upon to engage in some business therein a greater amount of capital was needed, had a capital accordingly. That was the intention of the common property of the church should increase. Perhaps the question may be asked, could this equality be maintained from that time henceforth and forever? If there had been no law given instructing us how this equality could be maintained, the people before 12 months had passed away would have been unequal again. Why? Because a man perhaps of small talent or ability might mismanage his stewardship or inherit, and instead of gaining anything he would lose. So he's talking about some people have more talents or have greater talents than others, and so he's talking about that the people with the more talents will have more, and people with less will lose the talents. Another man having a little more talent and industry and perhaps a little more wisdom would gain a little. Another man's business, tact, and knowledge were perhaps such that he could carry a large manufacturing establishment, and in a short time he would gain his thousands, and thus in the course of a year, we would again have had a rich and poor if God had not provided against it. What provisions did the Lord make in order to maintain this equality among His saints permanently? He made this argument by law that every man should be considered a steward first, and prove himself a wise steward before he could be entitled to an everlasting inheritance. These stewards were to render an account to the judge in Zion of their stewardships, or in other words, as it is written in the book of Doctrine and Covenants, it is required of every steward to render an account of his stewardship in the time and eternity. To whom does he render this report or account? To the Lord's bishop or bishops? As the case may be, he reports that he has done what the means entrusted to his care. If a man has been entrusted with $50 or with $1,000 or with $1 million to carry on some branch of business, he must at the end of the year render an account of that stewardship. If a man is only entrusted with a small farm, he renders an account of his stewardship at the end of the year. And thus all those who are occupied in these different branches of trade render accounts of their stewardships, consecrating at the end of the year all that they have gained, accepting that it has cost to feed and clothe them. Are they not equal? Yes, and this maintains a permanent equality, for the man who has gained 100,000 in his stewardship consecrates all that he has not used, and the man with the smaller stewardship, who in the whole year has only gained $50 over above what he has used, consecrated that 50. The man who has gained most consecrated most. The man who has gained less consecrated least. This reduces them yearly to the same position and condition as they were in when they commenced this heavenly order. So people who have greater talents, they'll probably have more to give to the order. They'll have a greater, they'll just have more to give, and when they give all their fair amount into the order, it will benefit them, and it will help the people who have a lesser talent to be up, to kind of be pushed up to the same level as the guy with the greater talent. Did the people carry out this law? No. Why? Because they had imbibed the notion which had prevailed among the people of the whole earth, and these notions were in direct opposite to the order of heaven. The notion and traditions of the world were that every man must be for himself, every family for themselves, and they must labor with their might, mind, and strength to gain all they possess, could gain and use it only for themselves and their generations after them, caring nothing at all about their neighbors. So he's talking about in society today, everyone is just worried about themselves. They go to work back and forth every day to their job that just pays them money for their needs, and if you get sick, you don't get paid for that day. If you're sick, a lot of times you still have to go to work. But in the United Order, if you're sick, you can take a sick leave for however long you need to recover, instead of going to work sick and making your sickness even worse. These traditions had been instilled into our minds and were too full of covetousness and of false notions about property to carry out the law of God. And hence many, when they came up to Zion, looked abroad upon that beautiful rich soil and the excellent groves of timber, and the fine prairies and meadows.